let's go off a little bit because it's something I really want to talk about that excited me about your background, about all the things that you've done. And one of the things, if you've worked with the Obama administration in the biodefense. So how did you come across that, and how were you selected as being one of the youngest African Americans to actually do that?
Yeah, I'm definitely blessed. You can't take away from that. I've definitely accomplished a lot of things that many of my peers would never accomplish in their life. So blessings to God on that. Um, but yeah, so I guess it started from my work with the military. As a war veteran, I was an infantry guy, so a soldier. Yes, I was infantry. That's us carrying the weapons you saw in Iraq and going through neighborhoods and things like that. If you watch any of those types of movies, yeah, I did that. But I had a dual role, and uh, I'll share that story at another date. But the dual role was infantry soldier and also doctor. So um, there's a special group that I was part of that I can't go into detail about. But anyway, so we had skills to save lives and to also eliminate any threats, right? So that's part of one of the processes. But in that, also, I had to take care of soldiers. I had to and civilians, um, uh, and to be able to provide for them and protect them from any health ailments or health effects, but also from potential threats that could be chemical related, biological related, radiological, explosives, all of those, what we call CBRNE, that I had to make sure that we were capable of responding to. So these are things, the concrete examples are if it's the anthrax or if it's something like a chemical, a blistering agent that was released or something that was going to be a nerve agent that could cause immediate death and things like that. How do you train your soldiers? How do you prepare? What medications or what we call countermeasures would you give and things like that? So those were all part of my job and also figuring out what the threat is. So as I got into all that work, then fast forward, returned to the States and started doing some work in emergency medicine, studying this and getting on advisory councils, just, giving them advice because people didn't know about that in the States. Only people who have been at war and in the military and have special privilege and access had those trainings. And I was one of those. So enter, we had all the things from 9/11 and more terrorist threats and things like that. And then I got called up to, hey, can you advise us on this? Can you advise us on this? How would you go about this? And then the whole disaster world, which is what we also trained and prepared for, from heat casualties, injuries, pandemics, and weather changes, earthquakes, all the things you have to figure out what we call business continuity of operations for companies, corporations, or even for your hospital system. All those things you had to factor and think about. How do you surge up? Meaning, how do you have enough staff? How do you have enough supplies? There are four S's of surge. How do you have enough space? And other stuff that you're going to need. So those are the things that I had to become expert at and to give advice on. So I got called up, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the emergency associations, many different healthcare facilities, corporations would ask my input. So I was a consultant and advisor on those things and published a lot of peer-reviewed journal articles, over 30 plus and 80 plus other mentions in public literature. So that's how I got into that. And then newspapers and media came and all those things and TV. And then fast forward, I got called up by President Obama's Secretary of Health and the White House. And basically, I got appointed to the role to advise the whole nation and the Secretary of Health and the Secretary of Preparedness and directly the president on those types of things with a group of us that were hand selected to advise on the preparing for and responding to public health emergencies. And that covers everything from Deepwater Horizon incident to H1N1 to whatever all those threats are to the nation and to the homeland. So that's how I got involved. And it's been pretty much the same thing, but different threats. And I've been involved in that. So yeah, that's it.
Man, that's great. Yeah. Like you said, that's something a lot of people won't be able to uh, step into or do that position. Um, if you don't mind speaking, can you speak about some of the challenges that you were faced with having that title or with being in that position?
Yeah, great question. Challenges were, were great. But being someone from a family of African descent, it wasn't an issue, right? Just you got to do, and you're a fighter. It's always been in you. So I never had that whole imposter syndrome that people seem to go through. I don't know that I felt entitled. I just felt blessed, and I'm going to do what I do best, and is pay attention to detail, give my 2 cents advice, think about things, and think about the public in general, and what would I do for myself, for my family, and extrapolate that to the public. Yeah, there were challenges. Hey, there's this black guy in the room. Who's this black guy? Who's this young black guy? And then it's just like, and there's you know, it's just you. So you have to represent. And when they hear you speak and people hear you speak, they're kind of like, oh, okay, he knows what he's obviously talking about. Interesting and stuff. But there were some stares and faces where people kind of wonder like, who are you? What are your qualifications? And I'd be like, go check my resume. I don't know. I'm fortunate to be here, and I'm here, and I will add value. You can't deny that. So, and I was able to make some changes and be involved in a lot of public policy, congressional testimonies, a lot of wonderful things. But yeah, people fight that imposter syndrome. Fortunately, I never felt that way. I felt that I belonged there. I was obviously appointed there. But don't get it twisted. There are some times where you just kind of like, okay, you felt the burden, like you're speaking up for Black people all over the world. It's just like, okay, I want to make sure I represent well, and you shouldn't feel that way, but yeah, I think you do. You feel that pressure, but I was able to, fortunately, step up to the plate.
That's great. That's great.